All right, everybody. But at the bar before this started, having an orange juice and a cocktail with John, he mentioned that these things tend to run over and go long. He said if I would be under twice my allotted time, it was worth $50. If I would end on time, it was worth $100. So in the interest of taking as much money out of John's pocket as I can, I will try to be quick on this. So let me begin with eGeneration. We're sponsoring again this year, which is great. Love coming out to TEAC and supporting everything that's going on here. A real fundamental line, and I think everybody in the room is probably a believer, that energy is the silver bullet. When we're out talking, that's always my opener. You know, we've seen lots of slides from yesterday where we're looking at the history of mankind and what happens with increasing resources to quality of life, standard of living, life expectancy. So the foundation is essentially organized as a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. And we're out advocating for safe, clean energy. And to everybody in the room, of course, we're talking about the Molten Salt Reactor. Lots of talks around the nation, university seminars, other grassroots organizations, cancer centers. That'll become more apparent as I get along. And on the university side, everything from small community colleges. We've been out at, those of you who know Oberlin College, it's like the Berkeley of the East. Very, very challenging message to take into Oberlin College, that we need more energy and development's a good thing, but we've done it. And then all the way to the East Coast, to the Ivy League. So working and talking to the next generation on it. But very appropriately, it's about segmenting our message and what is the business case for the audience that we're presenting it at the time. So most of you probably recognize these, and everybody's been doing a good job in the last 24 hours of going over them individually. But we really try not to do the cornucopia routine in front of an audience. Everyone in here believes me that this does everything from medical isotopes to helping the environment. You introduce this topic to somebody and hit them with everything at once, and they're convinced you're from Barnum and Bailey Circus and you're selling them snake oil. You can't get into enough of the technical details to show them why it's true. So we segment this message, and depending on who we're talking to, we'll bring up the piece and hit them with it. Website for the foundation is at www.egeneration.org. And again, since everybody's heard this stuff hard the last 24 hours, I won't go into any further detail on it. Thank you, and that concludes the eGeneration presentation. But I'm not done. As John pointed out, actually, let me take off one hat for the IRS auditor in the room and throw on another one. I am pleased to announce that I have been sucked into the NASA Plum Brook Economic Development Corporation. This is a new one for us and for me. It's a lot about the history and future of nuclear innovation. NASA Plum Brook Station is on the north side of Lake Erie. It's a satellite campus to the NASA Glenn Center. The Eisenhower administration built it, and they chose it to be the production site for the Air Force's nuclear bomber fleet. Are the I's and T's connected in your mind already? NASA Plum Brook was part of the plan for the aircraft reactor experiment. They had a 40-megawatt test reactor there, and they also currently have the world's largest vacuum chamber. You can imagine why NASA would want the world's largest vacuum chamber. There's a connection. They do not currently have a reactor, but they still have the site license. Future. The NASA Plum Brook Economic Development Corporation has a plan that's calling for 6 MSR test reactors at the NASA site. The primary business case in the market is to solve the Molly 99 crisis and bring $2 billion in production to the north end of Ohio. That's the business case. The NASA case ties closely to that. If you're going to get the medical isotopes out of the reactor, we're talking about a lot of online reprocessing of the fuel in order to get to those isotopes. And for those of you who've been following it, you know they're very short-lived. The real ultimate one you want out of the Molly chain is metastable technetium-99 with a 6.5-hour half-life. So guess what? If you're going to pull the Molly out, and yes, I know there's a variety of ways of doing that. Plating it on the heat exchangers is the classic one. We all remember the stories from Oak Ridge where they basically had to throw the Molly away. I was at the Society of Nuclear Medicine and Medical Imaging in St. Louis last year. And when I told them that Oak Ridge used to throw away Molly because nobody wanted it, they cried. I mean, you should have seen all these PhD MDs, the most educated room I've ever been in my life, and they were crying their eyes out. But NASA wants the plutonium-238. I think you all know why. I won't get into the technical side on that. The other thing they've been dying for 20 years is an extended runway. So the Economic Development Corporation says as we move medical isotopes on fleets of airplanes very quickly around the country, you need a longer runway at NASA Plum Brook to move them out, which is very appealing to them because they actually have some additional customers who would like to bring in very large transport aircraft in the middle of the night for testing of certain objects inside that vacuum chamber. Packages that they don't want on semi-trucks rolling down the road. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know. The political case, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty simple. It's jobs. So that's the future there. The allies on this, so far, the political structure is great. NIMBY is not a problem. This is an area that's used to high tech. You know, they're used to dealing with NASA and all sorts of technical issues there. About 4 miles from NASA Plum Brook sits the Davis-Besse Power Station. They've been living next to nuclear power for 40 years, and except for 2 or 3 really off-the-dock radical types, no one is fighting the 30-year extension with the NRC. So NIMBY's not an issue. Working on the university consortium for this, for a Wright Center for Nuclear Innovation and a policy center there. The 3 universities we've got in the mix right now are Ohio State, which has got a big nuclear engineering department and has the James Cancer Center, Cleveland State University, which is a huge materials department, and then the University of Michigan. You throw the 3 of those together, they're all within about 75 miles of the place, and the combined research institutional dollars is about $7.5 billion for those 3 universities. So on the industry side, obviously supply chain and manufacturing. Most notably, had a meeting with Governor Kasich's team, and his comment was, how many companies are going to move to Ohio if we make this a political reality? Get me memorandums of understanding that they'll move if we give them an order. I got a couple already. Surprise, surprise. If the state will come up with a 20% cost share and a DOE arrangement, and there's the remaining federal financing, and there's going to be an $8 to $10 billion reactor construction project, would you move your company where the first MSR was built since 1968? So that's not that hard. Another partner on it is Jobs Ohio, which is the Jobs Creation Economic Development Agency for the state. Initial modeling says that 6 reactors placed there, somewhere between 8 to 12,000 direct jobs, and then depending on the economic spin-offs, somewhere between 30 and 44. NASA Plum Brook Economic Development Corporation is going to be doing an event September 3rd and 4th entitled Pathway to Prosperity in Sandusky, Ohio, which is right next to the station. You get more on that from me later. So thank you. That concludes the NASA Plum Brook Economic Development Corporation presentation. Okay, I'm not quite done. Ladies and gentlemen, change of hats. And again, for the IRS files in the room, my name's Donald Larson. I'm with the Molten Salt Reactor Association. Okay, we are a trade organization. And fundamentally, we're here to facilitate a commercial regulatory framework that works within the time constraints of the global energy markets. Period. This is about making sure that the members have a pathway to revenue. We're organizing the industry. We're looking for corporate members. Where's your political constituency? How many jobs are at your headquarters? What's the model for economic growth of your company? So that when I walk in to the congressman's office in D.C. or the senator's office, I can say, greetings, Congressman. There are 3 companies in your district. Here are the addresses of them. They employ a total of 350 people. Their gross revenues are $12 million. They pictured that they can get economic growth and take themselves to $25 million and 150% job growth in your district if this legislation passes. They don't care if we're making cotton candy machines now. This is the political class, and this is what's important. That's why we're putting the trade association in and growing. Actually, real quick on that, I just got our formal membership director. We've hired Lindsay Frick. She's actually based out of New York City. She's got 10 years of organizing in the manufacturing world, has worked the trade association venue for a long time. She's got a mechanical engineering degree. She's not a newkie. She knows the talk and is very comfortable walking in and talking to why corporations need to exercise their citizens' united rights in order to make sure that all stakeholders in the value chain are represented appropriately. All right, so we do have our citizens united, right? So we've been involved in the lobbying efforts quite extensively. And so here's a handful of stuff that we've been doing at the state level across the nation. Hopefully some of you have heard about the success on Ohio's HCR9. That went through the Ohio House. It's a pro-thorium, pro-MSR piece, passed the House 97-1 about 3 weeks ago. The Senate version goes into proponent testimony next Wednesday, so in 6 days. So obviously I'm headed to Columbus 6 days from now. The counting political heads types tell me there's a very little chance of any opposition taking it down. There'll be a couple of no votes. State Bill 54, is George Taylor still in the room? George, where are you at? Or did he leave? George and I were talking about this yesterday. We were lobbying heavily for that one 2 years ago. George, I apologize, it failed. We didn't get it through. However, State Bill 310, which replaced it in the following election cycle, did pass. And if you remember George's presentation from yesterday, this is all about the renewable portfolio standards. Because of the efforts on 310, Ohio is the only state in the nation that froze their RPS. It's frozen. All the goals to take them out to 2020, 2030 are done. There's a working group in the Senate right now to start rolling back the RPS and eliminate the mandates on the renewables. Not make renewables illegal. You want to buy wind power, you want to put one up in your house, you want to, get rid of your guest room and build one on your property, go right ahead, but you're not going to be mandated to do it. That's the working group going on it. By the way, if that doesn't go through, I'm working on a measure with Representative State Senator Steve Krause, which I like even better, which is going to make nuclear renewable under state law. So the remaining RPSs would now be filled by nuclear power. I was in Maine a month ago testifying in front of the Committee on Technology, Utilities, and Commerce, I believe, for their LD 1116. Which was a pro-thorium, pro-MSR bill, which basically said that the state of Maine would have the right to license thorium refineries and reactors on their own. I got to sit through the working session afterwards, after testifying, and saw the interaction between the legislature and the administrative side, and wow, talk about making sausage. And the light bulb really went on in a long ways, because all of the parts of the administration weren't opposed to it. But they had 1,000 questions on how to implement, and nobody in the legislative body could answer it as to what's the impact and what are the criteria that the regulator is going to use for setting utility rates for such a reactor. What's the Department of Environment and Protection going to do on the siting side? What does this mean to the insurance regulator in the state? What is this going to impact going to be on the grid, and where the line's going to have to be extended? And on and on and on. So real quickly, the legislature moved it out of committee and has tasked the governor's energy office to do a comprehensive study on how you would implement thorium and MSRs in the state and answer all the nitty-gritty, dirty questions that have nothing to do with neutrons, thorium, low-pressure reactors. It's all the hard lifting you got to actually do to build one of these things and have it fit through the sausage-making process. I met him outside the committee room, and Patrick's word to me is, how often can you come to Maine? Does it really snow here in the winter? Constantly. All right, I'll be here anyway. Illinois HB 3293, we did not help write this one, but we're supporting it. John Kutch can probably give you more background on it, but it's Illinois' version of saying that nuclear is CO2-free power, and it should count for everything as well. So we're supporting it, but we didn't help write that one. Washington State, State Bill 5091, they don't have a renewable portfolio standard, but they do have an advanced energy section. And this one will make nuclear fall under the advanced energy criteria in Washington State. State Senator Sharon Brown is an amazing woman. She's actually got 3 other pro-nuclear bills we're backing her on, requiring nuclear education in high schools, supporting small modular reactor development and construction in the state. She's doing a wonderful job. And here in California, I spent the first 2 days with Walt. Walt, where are you at? Put your hand up real quick. Walt and I were in Sacramento. Monday and Tuesday, we met with the California Desalination Association and the California Manufacturers Association. And we actually ended up at the headquarters for the AFL-CIO to talk about jobs. So is something happening in California quickly? Not a chance. No way, no how. But as this place runs out of water more and more, and we help construct the business case that showers are not an evil thing, and cheap energy will allow you to stand in there and turn the water and fall on your head. It makes it more credible. So it's finding the business partner in the business cases, and hopefully something good can happen in California. Thank you again. John, where's my $100 bill?
Taking it off of your annual membership.
Ah, now that's a wise man.
Do you have a question?
Question here.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, Don, and
you and I made the sales calls together. Why are you asking a question?
no, this is regards to Ohio. For jobs, maybe you can talk to the combined schools about a medical research hospital on the base.
Actually, I should have mentioned that. Actually, some of you may have heard of the Cleveland.
Some of you may have heard of the Cleveland Clinic. It's the world's largest cardiac institution. It uses more Moly-99 and technetium than all of Mexico combined. So the heart imaging guys in the state are big on this. When the supply shortage is cut because of the Chalk River outage 2 years ago, I mean, people were just lining up. It's like, sorry, you had a heart attack, but we can't image you. So yeah, there's good news around that. So we're definitely bringing the medical types in.
Having MSRs on the NASA Air Force Base in Ohio NASA Airport seems very promising. What I'm wondering though is the CFR Title 10 inside there has a specific classification that singles out fluid-fueled reactors for extra hard restriction. Pretty much anything over 1 megawatt gets classified as a commercial reactor instead of a test reactor. I'm wondering, has that come up, and is there any plan to rectify that?
The question from Kevin is about certain parts of 10 CFR, and that a reactor over 1 megawatt, if it's liquid fueled, would automatically be a commercial reactor. There is an exemption on that currently, and it has specifically to do with the medical isotope production. So NRC has addressed that, but more importantly, the politics on this is going to get very complicated. It's going to take, a variety of funding mechanisms and some acts of Congress. But provided the real estate on the Plum Brook Station is leased to the Department of Energy, you can have this built under DOE orders if it's fully funded. And part of the plan calls also for fully funding the NRC, not to permit it, but to be there from the moment they break ground through making every kilowatt of power, so that NRC can use the knowledge gained from those reactors to build the commercial framework that would operate inside of the economic time constraints of the global energy markets. You got to pay both of them to do it. So there's at least 2 acts of Congress we have figured out that have got to get passed to handle this, and it's going to get more complicated from there. Mike Conley.
Wouldn't that add knowledge to the NRC for a regulatory framework as well?
Oh, it's got to, and that's the primary point. Depending which hat I'm wearing up here at the particular point in time, we want to get to commercial reactors. Having a series of, sub 5 megawatt, 2 megawatt, whatever they end up being reactors is really great from an engineering standpoint. My inner geek loves it. That doesn't put 1 bottle of desalinated water anywhere in the world. We've got to get 250 megawatt and bigger commercial reactors, and the secret is a commercial framework that operates within the economic time constraints of the global energy markets. If you don't have cost-effective, time-effective regulations, because actually NRC will tell you they'll do it now. Just go put an application in and start writing checks. And they will build the framework worth you all the way. And 25 years later and $5 billion, you're done with your paperwork. They'll do it. I mean, they really will. They don't have a mandate to be time efficient. They don't have a budget for it. We've got to create the mandate. We've got to get them the budget to be able to do this with specific test reactors so you get to the commercial case.
Actually, at the NRC, the test reactor portion, they say, is defunct. They do not do anything through it, even though people ask them repeatedly. They will not do anything through it. It's either commercial or prototype.
So the comment from Lars was he believes that at the moment NRC is not licensing anything on the test side, but it's either prototype or commercial. So again, everything's got to change. We've got to change the framework, the mission of the NRC on how fast and efficient the process is, and they've got to be given the resources and the knowledge base to be able to craft it, because they don't know what's going on. And it's because, again, Congress gave them no mandate, no budget to do it. I used to really be very anti-NRC until you interact with them and understand that it's a 95% cost recovery organization. And the worst thing in the world is that someone breaks a coffee pot at a light water reactor somewhere and the headline is "Spill at Nuclear Power Plant." That's their reality. It really is.
So right now in California, we're paying 900 an acre foot to buy water from farmers. I think the current desal costs about 1,100 an acre foot from Carlsbad, the new desal plant went in there. Do you have any estimate what it would cost to desal water with lifter?
When I sat with Ron Davis in Sacramento, he's the executive director of Cal Desal. His comment was that the California Coastal Commission 8 weeks ago just approved the world's tightest environmental regulations with pulling water out of the ocean. He says the Israelis can make desalinated water for half the price we can. So cutting the energy, we could look up real fast what Carlsbad's paying for natural gas, and if we assume 2 cents, 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour, let's make it a cogen plant on site, how that would reduce for Carlsbad. But the next plant in California, if it's having to undergo whatever the new rules are from the California Coastal Commission, is going to be even worse. So they have a very different set of regulatory framework problems. John was saying yesterday, let California fail soon. I hate to quote Rahm Emanuel, but in a crisis there is opportunity. And if the water turns off in California, there's our opportunity to affect change quickly, because suddenly the political talking heads are listening to a different body than the very organized environmental groups that would like to see the entire population of California moved east of the Sierra Nevada, and you'll be allowed to look at the Pacific from the mountaintop. You can't go touch it. Don't go touch the water, but you can look at it from the top of the Sierra Nevada. Okay, John, a final hook?
Yeah, you're out.
I'm out. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Don. Thank you very much.